Good morning from the farmer's garden. I'm one of the farmers and we're out in the garden again. So the first thing I want to do this morning is check through this squash that Brandon sprayed yesterday and see how that's looking. Hopefully I find dead squash bugs. The eggs, a lot of times there's not much that I can see different with them, but hopefully all of them were nailed with that spray yesterday as well. And I plan to show you some bees out here as well. I'm already seeing some. Little bit of activity. There's not a whole lot of blooms left in these plants just because they're not doing great anymore. And then as soon as we finish checking this, we're going to get started planting some things. So I'm standing in the zucchini. The zucchini has not been doing great for a few weeks. We are just not picking very many of them. There are some in there. They just are not doing great. There's some squash bugs laid on a goatweed. She just didn't really care where she put hers. They seem to be more dried out than they normally are, so I would take that as a good sign. Again, there's some on a squash leaf, feeling a little bit more dried out. I'm hoping the chemical got them. There's not really a whole lot that I can look at there and see that they died. But I'm gonna look down here on the ground. There's a dead squash bug. One dead squash bug is a good sign. They're much harder to find, of course, once they're dead and just laying still in there. But I'm going to take that as a very good sign that we did do some damage to those bugs. All right, now I'm going to see if I can find some blooms. I see some butterflies. I see a squash. Remember, we won't be picking squash today. Those will hold off. We'll get them tomorrow. Over in the cucumbers, as we drove by these a minute ago, I did see some bees in them. I'm not going to be able to find one, of course, now that I'm trying to show you. That's just how that goes. But hopefully our squash bugs are gone. There was one. I scared it off. There was a bee heading into that flower when I got here. So the bees are fine. They're out here. Even if I cannot actually show them to you, they're here. They're doing their thing. They're flying just fine. The butterflies are here. The little wasp and all of those things are here. And the squash bugs are dead. So that was the goal. Here we go. Maybe I can sneak up and show you. Down in this flower is a bumblebee. And he is moving around. And he is doing bumblebee things. He is doing exactly as he should be this morning. Healthy and happy. Coming back out, going back in, doing his stuff. There comes another little bee. And away he flies. So the bees are here. The bees are fine, even after spraying. Okay. We are starting with some tomatoes. These are called striped Germans. I think they're supposed to be similar to the Mr. Stripeys that we grew last year. I hope they are, because I loved those. I'm not sure if we're going to get them all in or if we'll do about half of them now and half later, just because of our space and irrigation system right now. But we're just kind of going back and forth every other across the row to put them in a little bit closer since we are going to be watering them this time. So I get to punch the holes. Oop, I found a stick in that hole. Holes. Gracie is adding our plant, and then these guys are coming back behind and filling in for us. And, you know, I like this plastic. It still has that moisture in it from the other day when we watered, so progress already. Brandon had to make a parts run so that we could turn on the sprinkler real quick this morning. But the kids and I planted around 140 tomato plants in 4 different varieties. Oh, Brandon's back. We'll get it watered pretty soon. So the sand, especially down on that end, past where the sprinkler got it the other day, was really loose and really hot and really dry. So we're about to get that sprinkler set up and get these watered. They need that water pretty quickly after going in the ground. This end over here actually had decent moisture under it, so it did pretty good. But there's about 140 tomato plants there. And then this row will be, we're going to do some experiments with some radishes and carrots. It's a little earlier than you would normally plant those, but we'll see how they do. And then we've got squashes going in that row and cucumbers and stuff in the last row. Lots more to do. Kylie, what are we planting in this spot? Carrots. So we've got carrots and the little ones going across and some dill up there. I'm not planting much dill right now, but we have had a few requests for it, so I put a little bit in. And next is going to be radishes, and we will be doing longer bits of radishes, not just little tiny ones. As far as the kids are concerned, this is the best way ever to plant things. So the sprinkler is going now. The tomatoes are getting watered. Dill, carrots, radishes. It looks like an animal has been after our pretty new plastic out here. But that's all the smaller stuff I'm going to do for right now. But that'll leave us space for doing more in the future. The thing is, with those, we tend to like to kind of succession plant them. So put a few out, wait a week or two, put a few more out. Next will be squashes in this row. And I have zucchini, patty pan, and yellow squash seeds with me today. We have 8-ball, yellow zucchini, and one other that I cannot remember, ordered and coming this week. We have planted some patty pans, and now we're working on zucchini. And this section through here will be yellow squash. And we're going to put cucumbers in that row and leave this one alone for now. So that's the updated plan. So these are what, guys? These are zucchini, right? Yes. Okay, and then yellows on this end. I just finished picking okra for the morning. The deer have loved the okra this year. There's no doubt about it. But now the grasshoppers are loving it. So it is looking really, really sad. As soon as we get water to our drip irrigation, we're going to go back in and fill in more okra in here. We stopped planting this spring because we just didn't have a way to get it watered. And so we just kind of stopped. But we'll put in more here. We have also removed our green beans from earlier in the year. So once the drip is down here, we'll be putting in more green beans. And then Gracie is picking peppers over here. The Tabascos have loved this summer. They are looking good in here. Lots and lots of them. They turn this pretty reddish orange color. Let's see if I can find one. She already hit this bush, so yeah. Bright orange, beautiful peppers. So those are enjoying it. The cayennes have kind of slowed down for a while. There's still some on here, still some babies even, but they're not doing as well. And then of course the bell peppers would really like some water. Bell peppers are sometimes little sissies. They just, sometimes they'll throw a fit. I believe this was our ancho plant, and it is just not making it all in this heat. Those were super good peppers, so I'm disappointed it's not doing better in the heat. Here's those Tabascos again. Lots and lots of them. Super pretty. What you got in your bucket, girl?
Lots of them.
So I'm hoping to make pickled peppers with these one day. Probably not this week. But that's what's happening down on this end of the garden. Brandon's planting has gone slower than ours. His has required a lot of swaps back and forth between equipment. So he got this all disked up, and now it is just fine powder out here. It is so dry. And now he is working on making sure his planter is calibrated correctly. So the way this works, seeds in here, there's the pea seeds. There's a plate in the bottom that lets out the correct number of seeds. So you change that plate depending on what you're planting. So if I'm planting something teeny tiny, I'd need a teeny tiny plate. So we've got the pea plates in there right now. So it lets out the correct number of seeds and brings them down. This wheel is cutting the row open for those seeds to drop in. This wheel is covering behind to kind of press that down. So after he plants just a few feet, Brandon goes through and digs and finds the seeds to make sure that they're planted at the right spacing and the right depth. And once he's satisfied with how everything is set, then it won't take probably 15 minutes max to do this whole piece. And all of this will be in peas. Now remember, the whole plan here is for these peas to go in, for us to put sprinklers out. We have a larger sprinkler on order that should do pretty much this whole piece all at once, and hopefully we'll water them and keep them growing faster than the deer can eat. That is the plan. We will see how it goes. So I'm going to go up and fix us some lunch, and I bet by the time I'm done fixing lunch, this will be mostly planted by then. We are wrapping up for the day, well, at least out here. Brandon finished planting peas. He got 24 rows in. 24 rows actually doesn't sound like enough to me, so I'm hoping we can get some more ground prepped and get some more planted. I love picking fall peas. The fall peas are ready when it's a little cooler and it's kind of pleasant to be out there, and I just love doing them. So hopefully we can get some more of those planted, but 24 rows for now. The tomatoes and everything have been watering all day. Oh, I'm standing in the way of the sprinkler. I forgot about that. So we're gonna go ahead and turn this off. They all look like they got pretty good water, so we'll turn this off, and that's where we're gonna call it a day. Thank y'all for visiting the farm today. I hope you learned something, enjoyed your visit. Y'all be sure and come back when you can stay longer.